Congressman Bob Good here, wrapping up a busy week with your Good News from Washington report. Once again, I feel like we are ironically named there because there wasn't a lot of good from Washington this week. Unfortunately, a majority of Democrats passed a four-bill foreign aid package today, this being Saturday, and it's borrowing $95 billion from our kids and our grandkids. None of it's paid for. It's doing nothing to secure our border or defend our country. Instead, it's sending $95 billion overseas, the bulk of it, $60 billion, being for Ukraine. Fought hard with the speaker this week, spent 90 minutes with him in a meeting on Tuesday, trying to persuade him to separate out Israel support, to pay for it, and to try to jam the Senate with the pressure of what the Iranians did last weekend. And the speaker didn't do that. Instead, he bought Democrat votes with $9 billion for Hamas added to the Israel package. I voted against the Israel package because it wasn't paid for, because it had $9 billion for Israel's enemies, Hamas, $9 billion going to Gaza. But overall, $60 billion Ukraine, $95 billion total, all of it borrowed, nothing for our border. And to add insult to injury, in the Ukraine portion, you had $300 million for border patrol in Ukraine, with nothing, of course, for our border. We also this week saw the Senate, first time in history, where they didn't hold a trial for an impeachment that was sent to them by the House. Had my good friend Andy Biggs and others that were the impeachment managers. They only got 3 hours to make their case. Of course, we've got 10 million pieces of evidence incriminating Mayorkas, the 10 million illegals that are acknowledged have come into the country under Biden and Mayorkas, but the Senate just dismissed it. They do not care about the border invasion. Worse than that, they actually want the border invasion. I sponsored a bill this week to defund National Public Radio, the Defund NPR Act. This is long overdue. Taxpayer dollars shouldn't be funding the media, and it certainly shouldn't be funding a media outlet that is clearly biased, clearly a left-leaning radical organization, and so we're trying to cut those tax dollars finally from going to NPR. Last but not least, in my Education Workforce Committee, we held a hearing with the president and 2 board members from Columbia University, just holding them accountable, challenging them on the anti-Semitism, pro-terrorism that's going on their campuses. They had little in the way of good answers to defend that. I asked them specifically, how did we get to a point today where we have to have a congressional hearing questioning them about anti-Semitism and pro-terrorism just being expressed so widely and freely in a large way on their campuses, and they even held an event on their campus where 2 individuals tied to terrorist groups were virtually speaking to students on their campus. So I'm going to continue to fight for you to reduce our spending, to secure our borders, to protect our constitutional freedoms. It's a privilege to represent you in Virginia's 5th District.